You're watching Mick and T's Sports Report on CHCO Television. And now, here's two guys who once got lost on their way to Halifax and somehow ended up in a nightclub in Montreal, Evan and Joe.
I'm Joe Ticotsky down here in New Haven, Connecticut.
I'm Evan McFarlane here in St. Andrews, New Brunswick, Canada, where it's feeling like spring again.
It's good stuff. And this is episode 24 of Mick and T's Sports Report.
Ah, the old 2-4.
Two dozen. As Amelia mentioned, the opening intro, we certainly have had our fair share of adventures over the years, but none better than that one time we got lost on our way to Halifax and somehow ended up in a nightclub in Montreal.
It's a crazy, crazy night. We slept for like 3 days after that. These old guys can't do that all the time.
And St. Catherine Street was never the same.
No.
All right, let's get going with our TV quiz, and I know you're ready to redeem yourself.
Oh man, I don't know.
This one I think it's a little bit easier.
Hey, is that Fonzie?
There you go. You remember the name of the show?
Oh, I'm really bad with names, but I know the show.
Okay, I'll give you half credit.
Okay.
Happy Days.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to say that, but I didn't want to get. I got made fun of so bad from the last one for not getting Leave It to Beaver. And then I remind my 35-year-old friends, like, you guys didn't watch that. Like, it's easy to come at me from the other side here. There's a lot of pressure in these.
There is. I do not give them to them in advance. And there's Arthur Fonzarelli and Potsy up top, and Ralph Malph down low, and Richie Cunningham, who's a successful director now. But all right, so we'll give
Monday,
you
Happy Days.
we'll give you half credit on that.
I'll take it. I'll take that and run.
Yep. All right. Now, on a sad note, I'm going to play you the song first. So this is it's not a TV quiz, but it's another quiz.
All right, redemption time. Yes.
Do you know what song that is?
Oh man, I spent my childhood getting revved up. That song make me run through a wall, man, before hockey games. That is the Hockey Night in Canada theme song. You cannot mess that one up.
I would have messed it up, but yeah, that was the Hockey Night in Canada theme
music.
No,
didn't matter if we were playing street hockey or getting ready to go out for an actual game. You played that and you got jacked up.
And the woman who composed the original version of that back in 1968 for CBC, Dolores Clayman, recently passed away at age 94. And
wow.
Said that along with her husband, they wrote over 3,000 commercial jingles.
Okay. That's
easy stuff.
Solid career.
Very good. So let's lead that into music spotlight. I will go first because yours is a little special, but mine's good too. It's from Manitoba, since we went with Manitoba on our small town spotlight later on. And this is a pretty unique band. They're called the Dirty Catfish Brass Band. They're a New Orleans inspired band from Manitoba. And they do a version of These Eyes, which originally was by the Canadian group, the Guess Who has Randy Bachman and Burton Cummings, who also are from Manitoba. So here's These Eyes, the Dirty Catfish Brass Band. Little New Orleans funk up north. So that's the Dirty Catfish Brass Band. And
that was good. I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, New Orleans.
Yeah.
And now we'll go with your music spotlight. This one is just really cool.
And I can't believe that it took me this long to actually pick this band, but you look at people who've worked really hard during the pandemic, and especially in New Brunswick, nobody's really worked much harder than Dr. Jennifer Russell. And her band is actually going to be playing. They're called the Jen Russell Big Band. They're going to be playing at the amphitheater at Kingsway to kind of kick off their season and everything reopening. So people should definitely go on to Kingsway's webpage or social media, figure out how to get tickets to that, because that is going to be one heck of a night. It's going to be awesome. It's nice to see her be able to relax for an evening because she's done a lot of hard work.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, she's the one that's up front and center at every press conference. And as Evan mentioned, a chief medical officer. And she also has this band, which is pretty good. This song is called Loose Lips. This goes back about 6 or 7 years. And if I can just get it going here. There we go. Jen Russell, Big Band.
1941 day, knowing the war we won. U-boats were waiting just offshore to blast our feet to the ocean floor. And went up in port to call with an urgent message to warn us all. Don't touch the chat on the telephone. That outside is coming and gone. Use that sanctions. Use that sanctions.
The Jen Russell Big Band. And as Evan mentioned, they are going to be at the Kira Amphitheater on August 28th at 2 p.m. She's also going to be performing in September as part of the newly named Harvest Music Festival in Fredericton, which, among other people, also has Jason Isbell, John Hyatt, and the Revivalists. And my new favorite band name, I'd never heard of them. They're called Dwayne Gretzky.
Awesome.
That's a great, it's like Gnarls Barkley.
How Canadian is that?
But pretty impressive that she can do the medical thing and the music. So I don't know if coming up next is Dr. Anthony Fauci's K-pop tour or what's going on. But well, that's our music spotlight for this episode. We hope you enjoy finding out about some new bands. Coming up next, we interview a hockey TV play-by-play announcer you're going to start seeing a lot of during the next NHL season. Stay tuned. You're watching Mick and T's Sports Report on CHCO-TV from scenic St. Andrews, New Brunswick. Welcome back to Mick and T's Sports Report on CHCO-TV. Our first guest was born in Brandon, Manitoba, and she's worked for CTV and Sportsnet in Canada, as well as Nessun in the United States. In 2019, she became the first woman to announce the NCAA men's hockey title game on television and was recently hired by ESPN to do play-by-play as part of their NHL broadcast team, making her the first female to do so. Her grandfather, Brian, scored the overtime goal that clinched the 1940 Stanley Cup for the New York Rangers, and her cousin is retired goalie Ron Hextall, who had a long NHL career with the Philadelphia Flyers. Let's welcome in Leah Hextall to the show. Leah, welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Joe and Evan. It's a pleasure to be here in this midsummer haze that we're in.
It is smoky. It is smoky. All right, we have a bunch of questions, so I will get going with the first one. When you first got your diploma in radio and TV broadcasting, did you want to get into TV sports, or were you thinking more news side or even radio?
Oh, Joe, it's, that feels like so long ago now, but, at the same time, it feels like it was yesterday. I got my diploma in broadcast journalism almost 18 years ago now, 19 years ago. But when I went into it, I really was open to really anything that was going to come my way, because it was very clear to me early through our instructors that if you just got a job in media, you were lucky. So get the job, then work your way into whatever you might want to specify in. But for me, I was really fortunate because, fortunate. And then also I did, quite a little bit of work, even though I was a student, that every time I came home from school, I took my schooling out in Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada, and I'd come home to Brandon, Manitoba, and there was a small station there. And every time I'd come home from school, I'd take my little tape in and my radio tape, because they had a radio station and they also had a TV station. And I'd play them my small demo that I had of things that I was doing in school. And I started that relationship early with CKX television. And 2 months before I was going to graduate school, I got a call and they had an opening in their sports department. And I had mentioned to them that I would love to get into sports. And I had been an athlete, locally, and some people knew my name. And the next thing you know, there was a job opening, an interview. I think I made $600 every 2 weeks and I got the job. But I was so fortunate to get that job right out of school because so many of my classmates did not. So I was really fortunate that opportunity came, but it was also a little bit of preparation. But, sports was always top of mind. But the reason I wanted to become a broadcaster was from watching Barbara Walters when I was growing up. She was the first person I really remember sitting down doing interviews, and I thought, I like that. I could do that. So I would have done news if it would have came my way, but I think I'm much better off in what I've chosen with sports. A little bit fluffier.
Evan, you had a question?
Yeah, Leah, you were a reporter and a host for most of your TV radio career. What was it that kind of kickstarted you to move into play-by-play?
And it was really strategic because I didn't have any other option. I was working for Sportsnet and Hockey Night in Canada, and I had been there for 2 years, and they did layoffs, and they had to lay off, probably about almost 50% of our hockey staff. And after that, here I was 13 years into my career working nationally at the most iconic brand in hockey and Hockey Night in Canada, and I couldn't get a job. I auditioned for several. I was up for many, didn't get a job, had to completely pivot, go find a job outside of the industry. I went into politics, of all things, working for the Premier of Manitoba, using those transferable communication skills that I had. But I knew that broadcasting was my heart, and I really wanted to get back into it. But here I was, a 37-year-old woman at the time. I could see that the industry was cutting back. There wasn't as many positions in what I did traditionally as a host and reporter. And quite frankly, there were so many people available for those roles. And even though I had so much experience through what I had just experienced, I wasn't able to get the job. So I thought, you know what, let's pivot. And I had always wanted to try play-by-play. And I say that very humbly because it's so difficult to do. But I thought, I have the broadcast ability. I have the knowledge of the sport. What's the harm in going for it? Because I'd be in a class of one. So that really is what spurred it on, was the fact that I just couldn't get hired, and I could see that I was being phased out, in my opinion. And I thought, if I'm going to have some longevity to my career as well, play-by-play is likely the direction I should try to go. And so far, through a lot of work, it's kind of worked out.
Yeah, no kidding.
You have quite the hockey lineage in your family, as your grandfather, 2 uncles and cousin all had long careers in the NHL. Did you play hockey or other sports in high school?
So I played so many sports growing up. I mean, my sister and I lived on the ball diamond when we were young, all the way from T-ball all the way up through, high school. But my sister was the national champion, and she was really, the great one at ball. I'll give her credit for that. But I played so many different sports: volleyball, basketball, badminton, golf, you name it, I was playing it. But I never played hockey. And it's one misconception that people have with me, and it's probably the thing I'm most proud of, is that I played, street hockey or shinny on the local rink, because when I was growing up, there was no women's league. And when I told my dad that I'd like to play, really the only thing you could do was ringette. And if you chose to play with the boys, my dad said, as soon as they start hitting, she's done. So she's going to lose all these other opportunities of other sports that she plays, because hockey takes up so much of your time. So it really was a good parenting call at the time, although I did give him a lot of jabs saying, I could have been Haley Wickenheiser or Cassie Campbell-Pascal if you just would have let me play. I used to dig into him about that. But he made the right decision at the time. But I never played hockey. So when I first started my career in Brandon, I remember covering a Brandon Wheat Kings game in the Western Hockey League of the Canadian Hockey League. And I looked at a stat sheet, and I had no idea what I was looking at. I didn't even really understand why the power play set up. And I was a casual fan that watched, as you alluded to. I have a lineage. My cousin was playing for Philadelphia my whole childhood as a goaltender, and I watched him, but I was a casual fan. I didn't know the game inside out. So I really take a lot of pride in the fact that throughout the years, I have dedicated myself to learning the sport so that now I can actually stand there and understand not only the technique and what's going on the ice, but I can also understand the rules and the penalties and narrate and tell the story of the game in the play-by-play roles. So not a hockey girl myself, hockey family, yes, but I've had to learn the game.
All right. Evan?
That's awesome. Yeah, being the first female to do NHL play-by-play for a US-based network and ESPN is quite an honor. Do you kind of look at yourself as somewhat of a trailblazer?
You know, Evan, it's a word that has kind of now started to be connected to my name a lot over the last few years, because whether it was being the first to call the NCAA Division I tournament with ESPN, or, you know, the first woman to call an NHL game on national television, you know, people are attaching it. But I have a very close friend of mine, Sarah, who knows me very well, and she knows I shy away from Trailblazer because I don't, for some reason, feel that I'm qualified enough to be a trailblazer. I think of women who got us the right to vote. I think of women who got us the right to be in the workforce. Like, to me, that is being a trailblazer, because they face so much adversity. The industry has been so open to me walking into the booth, and I have received nothing but support. And then I've had to work for the opportunities from there. So I don't consider myself a trailblazer, but as my friend said, I'm a freight train, because that's more my personality that I connect with. Because a freight train, it takes a little while to get going, it chugs along, but once it goes, you're not going to stop it. So I'm going to say I'm more of a freight train, and I'm just getting to that place where I'm about to get going and really start moving.
I like that.
Awesome.
All right, Leah, let's finish up, if you don't mind, with some what we call rapid fire
Love
questions.
it.
Are you up for it?
Sure. Let's go,
All
Joe.
right. Let's go for favorite NHL team.
Oh, I can't name one team, because then everybody's going to say I have a bias towards them. But I will say I grew up as a Flyers fan because my cousin was playing, and I still do pay attention to what's going on in Philly.
Okay.
I should say Pittsburgh, because he's the GM of it now, and he's probably going to, be like, hey, come on now, cheer for my team. Kind of wrong of me for my family ties.
Right on.
What NHL arena have you not gone to yet, but are looking forward to going to?
Bell Center in Montreal all the way. They say it's the best booth in the industry, and they say they put on the best show, and I have never seen a game in Montreal as a professional. So I really hope that I get to go there.
Okay, I was going to say, if it was 30 years ago, I would have hoped you would have said our hometown Hartford Civic Center for the Whalers.
Well, there you go. Still the best sweaters out there. The Whalers sweaters. Oh, unreal.
They do. They have that logo. It's still one of the top sellers.
You got it.
If you had to choose between a Fat Boy burger in Winnipeg or a good bowl of clam chowder from Quincy Market in Boston, which one?
Oh, the chata all the way. Yeah, because one, I don't get it all the time. And two, so it's a unique thing for me to get, but it's so tasty as well.
Very impressive New England accent there.
Thank you. I tried. It's been a couple years down there, so I've, kind of got it a little bit.
And the last one, and we always ask people this is probably a loaded question. Tim's or Dunkin'?
Neither.
Oh.
Sorry, when I'm a coffee girl and I like my coffee strong, and I love Timmy's, and Dunkin', I get the affiliation, but I have to say I'm a Starbucks girl.
Okay, all right.
Half a point each, Joe.
She is Leah Hextall, and come October, you'll be seeing her on ESPN as she does play-by-play for their NHL coverage. Leah, thanks so much for being on the show, and best of luck with your new job.
Joe and Evan, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Great.
Thanks, Leah. Let me know when you're coming to play golf here on the East Coast.
Definitely.
After the break on Small Town Spotlight, we will stay in Manitoba in a place called Gimli, where if you have a sweet tooth, we've got just the place for you. You're watching Mick and T Sports Report on CHCO-TV. It's time for another edition of Small Town Spotlight here on CHCO-TV. Since CHCO is available on Bell Satellite throughout Canada, you can watch our show on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday nights if you live in Victoria, Ontario, Victoria, Newfoundland, or Victoria, British Columbia. You knew I was going to pull that out. The Kinks, Victoria. Okay, and as always, you can watch the show on the CHCO-TV YouTube channel, where we hope you'll subscribe. For our 16th edition of Small Town Spotlight, we're heading to Manitoba in the community of Gimli, population 2,246. Located 1 hour north of Winnipeg, right on the west side of Lake Winnipeg, it's the home of a huge Crown Royal whiskey distillery. Let me take note of that for Evan later on. And since 1932, Gimli has also hosted the Icelandic Festival of Manitoba each August. To tell us about Gimli, let's welcome in Michelle Wierda, owner of the Me Cookie Boutique. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right, the region that you're located in is referred to as New Iceland. How is there an Icelandic connection in Manitoba?
In 1875, the Icelandic community was moving to Canada due to volcanic eruptions and through poverty, and they immigrated to Gimli and settled there.
Interesting, interesting. Now you're known locally and regionally as the butter tart lady. What is a butter tart, and who gave you the name?
A butter tart is a flaky crust that has, for us, our buttery sauce inside, and most people like it with raisins or non-raisin. It's always the battle. And for the butter tart lady, it was actually my customers that gave me that name. I had a different business name, and people recognized me and would call me, "Hey, you're the butter tart lady." So I decided, well, if they're calling me that, I better change my name.
Okay, all right. And where did you originally sell the butter tarts?
We just started in small craft fairs, and every year it just seemed to get bigger. So then we went to bigger markets, and then eventually farmers markets.
Okay. And how long have you owned the bakery for? And what made you decide to buy it from the previous owner?
Actually, I bought the bakery April 1st on April Fool's Day. So
that's a great day to start.
Yeah. So it was shy about 4 months now. And I'm actually very good friends with the previous owner. And I actually went and helped her out 3 years ago and worked for her. And I fell in love with the bakery. And I always said, if I ever get the chance, I'll buy your bakery. And so 3 years later, the opportunity came. She wanted to retire, and through the help of Community Futures, I was actually able then to buy the bakery.
I've seen on your website something called Vina Tartas. What are they?
That's what we are most famous for, which is like a 7-layer cake. Kind of looks like this. It's like a cookie layer with prunes in between, and we actually hand grind our prunes, and then we top it with a cardamom buttercream on the top.
Wow, wow! And you had some of the butter tarts to show also.
Yes, I do. So these is like our 6-pack butter tarts. They're our most famous ones. And so you can get them in raisin, non-raisin, or pecan. And then we have our gourmet line as well to tempt people with score or other flavors.
And what are some of the other things you sell?
Actually, Imperials and our Vina Tarta cookies are our #1 seller besides the Vina Tarta. And that is a sugar cookie with raspberry jam and an almond icing on the top.
Okay, I see you have cheesecakes also.
Cheesecakes, cakes, pies. We sell lots of pies, and lately lots of cinnamon buns. I found that I really love making cinnamon buns, so I make lots of those now. We also have our slices. We do keto. We do gluten-free cupcakes. So whatever I want, I just kind of expand.
That's great. Now, is it true that you also own a fitness place right next door to the bakery?
Yes, it is true. It was not planned. I actually
Sure, it was.
I actually used to own the Last Curves in Manitoba many years ago and thought I was done with the fitness industry. And then the opportunity came back and I opened Real Changes Fitness for Women. And I just happened to open it beside the bakery. And then 8 months later, I bought the bakery.
Ingenious idea. You can find her on Instagram at the Butter Tart Lady 777 and also online at sugarmecookieBoutique.com. She is Michelle Wierda, brand spanking new owner of the Sugar Me Cookie Boutique on Center Street in the Lighthouse Mall in Gimli, Manitoba. Thanks for being on the show, Michelle.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, also, as I tell all of our small town spotlight guests, if you and your family ever make a trip to New York or Boston, stop halfway between in Connecticut, and I will show you some of our world famous thin crust pizza, which I'm sure you guys would like.
That'd be awesome.
One last thing I was going to mention, Michelle. I've spoken a few times on the show that I'm a type 1 diabetic. And researching this segment has just been sheer torture for me. Here's a deal I want to make with you. Hopefully this will be down the road like 30 years or so. When my doctors basically say, look, you've got like 48 hours left to live. I'm going to hop on a plane to Winnipeg, take an Uber down to Gimli, and just clean out your display cases so I can leave the earth with a smile on my face and, frosting and all that stuff. So, we'll make a deal out of it.
That'd be awesome. We'll be ready for you.
Sounds good. And for people that are interested, you can get her product shipped anywhere in the US or Canada. So definitely check out that website at sugarmecookieBoutique.com. Michelle, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Oh, straight from the vault of Joe Ticotsky's t-shirt collection. Was that a Krispy Kreme t-shirt?
It was a Krispy Kreme t-shirt. I figured since she owned a bakery, it would, so good catch there, would sort of be a good thing.
You got to hook me up with some of these shirts. You have the best t-shirts.
Thank you. And then one quick picture, because sometimes what you show doesn't do it justice, but this is that Venetarta cake, that 7-layer Icelandic. Oh God.
I could get into that.
I got to get that off the
I'm on board with that one.
During the Leah Hextall interview, did you hear the doorbell ring in her house right in the middle of the interview?
That is just the paparazzi knowing that it was Leah Hextall talking to the infamous Joe and Evan.
Yeah.
And but what an all-star. She didn't turn her head or anything. Like, it was almost like she didn't care who was at the door.
I think
makes us feel pretty important.
I think it was her agent coming in to say, can you end this interview and get off this little bit show? Let's go to the shout outs. Who do you have?
I might have done this gentleman before, but today is his birthday. So I know this is going to be on a little bit later, but as of today, the day that we are filming this, it is Jeff Rouse's birthday. So happy birthday to my very good friend, Jeffrey.
Jeff, happy birthday. I'm going to give a shout out to Jeremy Pringle, who actually worked our camp the first year we were up in St. Andrews. He got married in late July to Jessica Adams. Great couple and fun time. And so congrats to good old Pringle on his wedding.
Congrats, Pringle.
All right. Well, that is it for episode 24 of Mick and T Sports Report. I'm Joe in New Haven.
And I'm Evan here in New Brunswick.
Thanks to station manager Patrick Watt and editor Florence Flojo Mitchell. A quick Olympics reference there. Both at CHCO-TV in St. Andrews for producing and editing a show that for some reason gets insane ratings in nursing homes all throughout Atlantic Canada. No idea why. Now that we've once again come to the end of another show, that means it's time for our closing catchphrase. So in honor of Michelle, the bakery owner I interviewed, peace, love, and butter tarts. Butter tarts. We need a Homer Simpson thing there. This is Mick and T Sports Report on CHCO-TV. We'll see you next time.